Hey everybody, welcome to your review for Reading Summative A. So, um, the first thing we want to talk about was on the test. So this is going to be next class, 12.3 or 12.6. That's Friday and Monday, folks. It's going to be on Canvas like our other tests. It's going to have a paired passage on it. So it's going to have two things that connect. And those two things are going to are We Wear the Mask and a passage from Lesson Before Dying. It's going to have questions about the novel, questions about just the poem, and then questions about how both connect. They're all close-ended questions, which means that they're multiple choice, multiple answer, part A, part B. There are 14 questions, 18 summative points. So the first thing that you want to know are the terms to know. So at this time, uh, the terms to know. So what you need to know are all these terms on the Quizlet. Now, if you're dealing with the handout that has all the Quizlet terms printed out on it, there are a few terms that didn't make it on there. They're on there now, but they weren't when I printed the list. So you're going to want to pause this video in just a moment and copy down these definitions onto the bottom of your pink paper. Just copy the parts that are dark or that are black. You don't have to copy the things that are grayed out. So a stanza is a group of lines in a poem. A paragraph, a line is a single row of words in the poem. Speaker is a term used for the author, speaker, or the person whose perspective, real or imagined, is being advanced in a speech or piece of writing, or in poetry. And in poetry, it's the narrator of the poem. So, symbol is a thing that represents or stands for something else, especially in a material object representing something abstract, like an idea. And then finally, tone is a writer's attitude towards his subject. Matter revealed through diction, figurative language, and organization. So, like I said, you just have to copy down the black parts. You can shorten these quite a bit, but you do want to copy them onto your pink paper. I'll pause a minute so that you have a moment to pause the video and copy these down. All right, so the other thing that we have to do is we need to review the literature. We need to talk about one of the passages from the book, and we need to talk about comparing that passage and the poem. Okay, so there are a few things that I'm wanting you to do with this passage from the book. So we are looking at pages 47 through 49. So you'll want to get out your book right now, and you'll want to open to those pages because you want to annotate these pages in your book so that these details pop out to you when you can use your book and your notes on the reading summative. So you haven't been able to use them for any of your reading quizzes, but you can use them on your books on the reading summative and your notes on the reading summative. So, what do we need to look for? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to highlight the three things that Grant does or says that are offensive to the white men. So this passage is coming from chapter 6, and this is the part where Grant has to go to Mr. Henri's house, and he has to ask talk to the sheriff and ask him for permission to visit Jefferson. This is after, he's had to go the first time with his aunt. So, the very, very first thing that he gets asked is, "Been waiting long?" Right here. Then he just says, "About 2.5 hours, sir." I was supposed to say not long. I was supposed to grin, but I didn't do either. So what that tells us is he's doing something that he knows is going to displease this white man, Mr. or Sheriff Goodry. Okay, so that I would say is offense number 1. So, the conversation continues. There's a large chunk of narration here that we're going to kind of skip over, and we're going to move on to the next page. So, on page 48, they continue talking, and Goodry asks Grant, "What for?" And he says, "She's old, and she doesn't feel like she has the strength to come up here all the time." "She doesn't, huh?" Sam Goodry asked me. He emphasized doesn't. I was supposed to have said don't. I was being too smart. "Yes, sure, she doesn't feel like that she can." I used the word doesn't again, but I did it intentionally this time. If he said I was being too smart and he didn't want me to come to the jail, my mind would have definitely been relieved. So, we know at this moment that he's done something that he shouldn't have, and then he does it again. And he tells us right out that he did it on purpose this time. So the first is just kind of how he talks. So we can kind of see how he's expected to change the way that he talks to sound dumber, just to please these people. So that is offense number 2. All right, next, they keep talking for a while, and then they start to talk about, what he plans to do when he comes up there. Grant says he has no idea. And then he says, "I hear from people you want to make him a man for what at this time?" And he's just like, "She asked me to." And Sheriff Goodry's kind of, wondering what that even means. Grant says, "To die with some dignity, I suppose. I suppose that's what she wants." So I think that, so then they start talking about that. So he has kind of hit the nail on the head with what he's supposed to be doing, how he's supposed to make him a man. And then Sheriff Goodry says, "You think that's a good idea?" "That's what she wants, sir. What do you think?" "I'd rather not have anything to do with it, sir, but that's what she wants." "So you think he ought to go just like he is?" "I don't know, sir, how he is, sir. Believe me, if it was left up to me, I wouldn't have anything to do with it at all." Then Sheriff Goodry says, "You and I are at an accord here." They agree with each other. "But my wife thinks different. Now, which one do you think is right, me or her?" So he puts him on the spot, and we know when he says the fat man snorted, he thought Goodry had me, that they're trying to trip him up. They're trying to put him in a position where he has to do things that are going to get him in trouble, or say things that are going to get him in trouble. But he says instead, "I make a habit of never getting into family business, Mr. Goodry." The fat man didn't like that quick maneuver. I could see it in his face. "You're smart. A little," said Goodry. "Maybe you're just a little too smart for your own good." I was quiet. I knew when to be quiet. So that is the third offense. When he comes up with that quick, good response to that trap that Goodry set for him. So that's offense number 3. All right, what else do we have to look for? Underline I need to change this to forward. Forward phrase that signals to readers that Grant knows he's offending the white men. So you're going to want to look at the first 2 offenses for this, because those are the ones that kind of give you the answer to this question. It doesn't happen in the third example. But what does he say after? What words repeat? What repetition do we see here? If you said, "I was supposed to," you're seeing exactly what I wanted you to see. All right, what is the next thing we need to look for? You need to draw a box around the lines that describe the internal conflict Grant faces in this passage. So there's going to be lines that show his internal conflict. let's take a look at that spot. So if you look at page 47, at the very start of this passage, Inez left the kitchen as soon as the white men came in. I tried to decide how should respond to them, whether I should act like the teacher that I was or the nigger I was supposed to be. I decided to wait and see how this conversation went. To show too much intelligence would have been an insult to them. To show a lack of intelligence would have been a greater insult to me. I decided to wait to see how the conversation would go. So, what is his internal conflict? What is he trying, or, is he trying to make a decision? Is he upset by something? Like, what is his internal conflict? Well, he says, I tried to decide just how I should respond to them, whether I should act like the teacher I was or the nigger I was supposed to be. Obviously, he does not think that he himself is the N-word. I think that the N-word is used in this novel, one, for impact, and two, to kind of put a label on the image that white people have of black people at this time and how it doesn't align with who they really are. So anyway, that is where you put that. So then you kind of want to think about what this passage reveals about how blacks are supposed to act around whites. And I think that one of the things that we see that we've already touched on is that very clearly they are supposed to act stupid. And that is insulting to have to do. It's degrading. So, the last thing that you need to do is compare the passage and the poem. So you should still have your book out, and you want to bring back out your copy of We Wear the Mask. So the very first thing that you want to do is who is the person in this novel, in this passage, that's supposed to be wearing the mask? You said Grant. You are correct. Then I want you to consider which line of the poem most closely relates to what Grant has to do in the passage from chapter 6. Right, so taking a quick look at the poem, I think we have already kind of hit on it, right? Wearing the mask. So we can say that line is what Grant has to do. All right. So that brings us to this question. In your copy of the book, star the point where Grant puts on the mask. Oops, wrong way. Here we go. So I'm scanning through. Well, here he's refusing to wear the mask. He's not doing what he's supposed to do, so it can't be there. And here he's still not doing what he's supposed to do, so it can't be there. And here he's still not doing what he's supposed to do. When does he start doing what he was supposed to do? Oh, there it is. I was quiet. I knew when to be quiet. So he puts on the mask here. All right. And the final question to consider, how are Grant and the speaker of the poem similar? And I think that they are facing, in a large part, the same and similar internal conflicts. They're having similar experiences in the society that they're living in. There's so many ways that they're the same because the speaker of the poem are African Americans and Grant is an African American. All right. Thanks for going through this review with me. I hope you feel prepared for the reading summative, and we will take that next class.